Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're going to pop the hood on a massive, complex civic system. Think of democracy not just as some abstract idea, but as a colossal engine. It's a machine with countless moving parts, totally designed to translate the will of the people into actual, real-world governance. Our goal today is to create an accurately explained, amazing deep dive into how this engine actually runs, using India's electoral system as our ultimate blueprint. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sheer mind-boggling scale of the whole thing. Over 900 million. That is the number of registered voters in India. It is literally the largest single democratic exercise in human history. To put that into perspective for a second, that's more than the entire population of Europe, all participating in one unified electoral system. Absolutely wild. So what does this all mean? How on earth do we manage the largest democratic exercise in history? Governing a population of this size, with its incredible diversity, isn't just a political philosophy. It's a monumental logistical challenge. It requires incredibly robust solutions, strict rules, and a system that can handle serious friction without just breaking down. Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for today. We'll be looking at the roots and features of democracy, the actual mechanics of elections, the election commission, political parties and coalitions, and finally, the real-world challenges to the system. Starting with part 1, roots and features of democracy, we're uncovering the ancient foundations here. You know, it's a super common misconception that democracy is purely a modern Western invention. But the conceptual roots of shared decision-making, they actually go all the way back to the ancient Vedic period in India. We see early consultative bodies like the Sabha, which was an assembly of elders, and the Samiti, an assembly of everyday people. You even see the direct linguistic root of the modern Indian parliament, the Sansad. And all of these institutions were guided by this profound moral principle called Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the idea that the world is one family. These were the very first gears of the democratic engine, demanding that rulers actually consult the people instead of just ruling with absolute power. Fast forward a bit to the 10th century Chola dynasty, and we find this absolutely fascinating civic ritual, the Kuda Vole system. Imagine this. Eligible candidate names are written out on palm leaves, dropped into a ballot pot, and drawn by an impartial young boy in full public view. Now, it wasn't just a random lottery. It was a carefully designed system with really strict eligibility rules to prevent dynastic elites from monopolizing power. It's just an amazing historical example of early transparency and fairness. And this brilliantly illustrates how modern representative democracies have evolved to structure that power today. As you'll see, there's a really sharp contrast between a parliamentary system, like you have in India, Canada, and the UK, and a presidential system, like in the USA. In the parliamentary system, the executive, so the prime minister, is drawn directly from the legislature and is entirely accountable to it. They can literally be removed by a vote of no confidence. But in contrast, the presidential system keeps the executive completely separate from the legislature with a fixed tenure. It's just a fundamentally different way of wiring the engine. Moving right along to part 2, the mechanics of elections. These are the physical gears of the democratic engine. Right, so not all elections are run the same way. India actually uses 2 distinct systems depending on the office you're talking about. For direct elections to the Lok Sabha, the lower house of parliament, they use the first-past-the-post system. It's pretty simple. The country is divided into 543 constituencies, and whoever gets the most votes in their specific area wins the seat. Simple winner takes all. But for indirect elections, like choosing the president or members of the Rajya Sabha, they switch gears to proportional representation with a single transferable vote. In this setup, voters rank candidates by preference. If a candidate hits a certain quota of votes, boom, they win, and any surplus votes are transferred to the next preference. It basically reduces wasted votes and makes sure representation accurately reflects the strength of different groups. But before anyone can actually vote in those systems, they have to get on the electoral roll. And becoming one of those 900 million voters isn't just automatic. It's a really carefully verified, strict process. It starts with submitting Form 6, online or offline. Then, an actual human being, a booth-level officer, conducts a field visit to verify the information. Actually, scratch that. It's not just a visit, it's an official verification. Only after that approval is the name added to the specific constituency's roll, and the voter is issued a photo identity card. This rigorous process is absolutely crucial to prevent bogus voting and protect political equality. Part 3. The Election Commission. Think of them as the master mechanic, ensuring fair play. The Election Commission of India, or the ECI, is a constitutional body that enjoys a level of independence basically on par with the judiciary itself, and they hold immense responsibilities. They don't just count the votes. They supervise the entire process for parliament and state legislatures. They oversee the delimitation of constituencies, constantly revise those massive electoral rolls we just talked about, register the political parties, educate voters, and, importantly, they enforce the Model Code of Conduct to ensure transparency and monitor campaign cash. If polling is unfair, they literally have the power to step in and order repolls. They run the whole show. Okay, part 4, political parties and coalitions. If the system is an engine, this is the fuel. Let's move to and see how this builds up in the real world. Globally, democracies utilize totally different party systems. A one-party system legally allows only one party to hold power. A two-party system, like in the US, sees two major players dominate the board. But India operates on a highly dynamic, multi-party system. This means way more than two parties have a very realistic chance of gaining control. It provides a massive spectrum of choices for voters, reflecting the vast diversity of the population and presenting a whole multitude of different policy alternatives. Now, because of this intense multi-party landscape, it's super common that no single party wins a clear majority in the legislature. When that happens, bitter rivals actually have to find consensus and share power to form a coalition government. To make this work without constant, complete chaos, they established what's called a Common Minimum Program, or CMP. This is a mutually agreed upon shared policy agenda. It is a fascinating display of compromise, requiring major decisions to be based on actual consensus rather than just unilateral mandates. And you should know, not all parties wield the same influence. The Election Commission sets strict, math-heavy criteria for a party's official status. To be recognized as a powerful national party, a group needs to secure at least 6% of the total valid votes in 4 or more states and have 4 MPs, or win 2% of Lok Sabha seats across 3 states. Meanwhile, a state party focuses on regional issues and needs to hit thresholds like 6% of votes and 2 MLAs in a state assembly. It's essentially a merit-based system where parties have to continuously prove their public support to keep their status. Finally, Part 5, Challenges to the System. Let's look at the friction within the engine. Impartially speaking, looking at our sources, there are several serious systemic roadblocks. Wide gaps between the rich and poor can allow wealthy individuals or influential economic groups to heavily dominate politics, which sometimes even leads to voter coercion. There's also the major challenge of political awareness. When citizens lack education on their rights, they become super vulnerable to misinformation and false promises. Add to this the very real issues of corruption, the exploitation of caste and religious divisions for votes, and the sad reality that for a lot of people, their civic participation completely ends the moment they leave the voting booth. These are persistent challenges that really threaten transparency. So, the crucial point is how the system attempts to fix itself when things go wrong. One major historical issue was defection. This is when an elected representative suddenly switches their political allegiance, leaving their original party to join another one. This kind of floor crossing causes massive political instability, and fundamentally, it betrays the mandate of the voters who elected that person based on their original party's platform. To combat this, the anti-defection law was introduced as sort of an autocorrect mechanism for the engine. And these measures are powerful. They ensure political stability by preventing governments from collapsing due to sudden, overnight defections. They curb the corruption of political horse trading by threatening immediate disqualification. they enforce party discipline on critical votes, and ultimately they uphold the voters' original mandate. It even reduces electoral costs by preventing the need for frequent, super expensive midterm elections. As we wrap up this explainer, we return to a core truth. Elections are really just the beginning of the democratic process. We've explored the massive gears, the strict rules, and the undeniable challenges of India's electoral engine. But any engine needs continuous maintenance, right? The sources remind us that a huge challenge is limited participation beyond Election Day. So I want to leave you with this final thought. A truly healthy democracy requires everyday engagement. So how will you participate in governance beyond just casting your vote? Keep learning, stay curious, and thanks for exploring this amazing system with us.
Every view, like, and comment keeps this journey going. Thank you for your support. Stay connected, keep believing, and get ready for what's coming next. See you soon!